Hey everybody, this is Tom again in Western North Carolina, and this is going to be the next step in making a shaving horse. And I'm going to label this video how to make a shaving horse, and that maybe will make it easier to find on YouTube. And if you have just happened to look for how to make a shaving horse and you come to this video first, there are some videos before this that are not labeled how to make a shaving horse, so you need to scroll back and find them. Anyways, all the rest of these ones I'm going to label how to make a shaving horse. Anyways, this next step I'm going to show you is how to make the rear legs, and it's one of the steps that gives people the hardest time. And if you have downloaded that set of plans, there's some kind of confusing looking drawings in there for this step, and I don't have them here in my hand. I'm just going to show you how I do it, and then I'm going to give you guys some suggestions on how to do it if you don't have the equipment that I have. All right, so let's just get into it. And the first thing is, you've got your pieces that you've roughed out, and I've roughed these out, and I think I have the grain matched right there. And if I want these to be matched after I cut them, what I need to do and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of them and turn it around like that. Not flipping it over, I'm just turning it end for end. And now I'm going to cut both of these exactly the same, and then when I turn them back, you'll see when I come back out of the saw how I can make them match back up. Anyways, I'm going to saw them on a chop saw. And so I've got this chop saw set. I've got this set right here at 15 degrees. There's a notch on my saw at 15. And then I've got this back part here leaned over at, you can do the plan says 15. I do this at 17 degrees. That's anywhere in those vicinities. You can't have it too narrow or too wide, but I do 15 and 17. That's just one of my quirks. Now, anyways, when you go to cut this first piece, or when you make the first cut on your piece, you need to saw that, and you can't leave a lot of waste. You have to start your cut right near the end of the board. Otherwise, you're going to be too short. 24 is just enough. Anyways, I just cut that off, and that's what it looks like now. That's a compound angle. And if you were just going to cut one of these, or just two, like all you guys are going to do, you're just going to measure them. And the measurement is 22¼ inches. And it's from this long point. This is what I call the long point, because it's the long point of both of the angles. And you're going to just measure it right here, 22¼ And this place becomes the short point of this cut. Now I've got this set up with a stop because I'm making multiples. But anyways, that's where my stop is, right there at 22¼ And you can see that it used all of the wood. You don't have a lot of extra wood. Just set that one there. I'm going to go ahead and cut this other one. Okay, now both of those, they look exactly the same, correct? That's correct. But now if I take this one and turn it back around like before, remember I turned it around. When I turn it back around like that, my grain here is matched up. That's not a very good example of matched up grain, but that's better. And once the pieces are like this, you can use either end for the top. You can choose that end, or you can choose this end. Okay? Now I'm going to step back for a second. I'm going to move back a step. And I'm going to try to show you how you need to lay out these lines if you don't have this saw, if you're going to just cut these by hand. So what you do is you get some kind of a thing like this. I think this is called a sliding T-bevel. But you get this, set it at 15 degrees, and you would make a line like that. You could make a line like that, and then with the same bevel, if you're doing 15 degrees, then you make a line like so. You got a line there and a line up there. You could even make this line here if you want to. So you got the 15, 15, 15. And that's how many lines you would draw if you're going to saw this by hand. You need to be following a line everywhere. Now I'm pretty sure you could cut this with a circular saw, a hand circular saw. You'd set it at 15 degrees, 15 degrees this way, and just saw on that line right there, and you'd get that same cut. And you make that exact same cut at this end and this end of the board. You saw me do that over here. It's the same cut. I just moved the board down and same cut. Those ends are parallel to each other. Okay, that's how you would do it by hand. Okay. Now I'm showing you how I go about it, and I'm choosing an end to be the top. And I kind of like the looks of this end. The grain matches up to me better than this end. So I'm going to choose it to be the top of the legs. So I've got my square again set. And this, I need to tell you this, that everything I'm doing right now is for the thickness of wood that I'm using. If you end up with wood that's thicker than this, say you buy some 8-quarter oak or hardwood of any kind, and you don't feel like wasting down that wood all the way down to this thickness, and you end up with a thicker board, you have to you might want to make a little bit of compensation on just what I'm doing right now to make it come out better. I'm not sure exactly how to say it. But anyways, on this, if you're in the vicinity of 1.5 inches thick on all your wood, this is how I do it. But anyways, I've got this set at 4 5/8 inches, 4 5/8. And from this long point, see, I've got the two long points right together. I make a mark right there on both boards. And then I take that square and I put it on the end here. And I draw a line to that point, to that mark. So I end up with something that looks like that. I hope you can see that. Anyways, then the next step for me is to take that right here to this bandsaw and very carefully cut them off. And you don't need to watch me do that, but that's what I would do. And the results is pieces that look like this. That line used to be right there, and now it's cut off. Okay? And that piece is going to end up over here on this side, like that. And that flat surface there is going to be on the side of your shaving horse. And this down here is going to be on the ground. But we're going to move that piece over to here, and that gives you a flat place for your bolt and washer to head up to. If you don't have that flat there, if you just have it like that, that's not very good for your bolts. So anyways, right now, I'm going to back up for a minute. All right. Anyways, here's another one of those pieces that I have cut out, or I just cut the end at those angles. And this is, I'm going to show you if you don't have a bandsaw. If you don't have a bandsaw and you still want to do this, and I encourage you to keep doing it, you can do it, is instead of just drawing that one line on the top like I did, you draw that line just like I did, but then from that line right here on the top of the board where that line hits right there, you draw a line down there, and then on this end, now I did this, well, I can do it I guess like this, but then I move that line around the corner right there so I can see it. And I draw a line right like this. And I've got my square right on that top place. And then on the bottom here, you connect those two lines with a line. And so you would end up with a piece that's marked like that. And I have been sawing on this to make sure that I'm telling you something that's not impossible to do. And I had a vise sitting up here. I had a vise clamped up here just a few minutes ago. And I took this here Japanese saw. And I think it's just a regular, I don't know what to call it, but it's probably just a crosscut saw, but it's probably multi-purpose. But I had this in a vise, so it was held solid right here, and I used this Japanese saw, and I started sawing this, and I could have sawed that all the way off. I know I could have done it, and so I know you guys can do it too. But you probably, if you haven't done much sawing, you should probably do a practice cut on a piece of scrap wood just to get used to it. And it's pretty important that you follow the line as best you can all the way around, because you don't want this piece to be all squirrely and have to readjust it some way or another. But I know that can be sawed with just a regular Japanese saw, okay, if you have a Japanese saw. The one thing good about the Japanese saw, it's a very thin kerf. The thickness of that saw is very thin. And that's a good thing. You don't want to waste off a lot of wood there. Use up a bunch of wood. Anyways, if you are like an old-time carpenter type person and you don't have a Japanese saw and you happen to have a rip saw, now this might look to you like a crosscut saw, but it's not. It's a rip saw, and the difference is the way the teeth are filed. Anyways, this is a rip saw, and I took another piece similar to this practice piece that I did with the Japanese saw. And I'm hoping you guys can see this. But right here on the back of a shaving horse, I clamped this down real hard, and I actually have it kind of upside down. You know, I have it like this. But anyways, you still got to saw all the way. But I successfully was able to saw this with this handsaw. Like that. So I believe that that's possible. I didn't try it with my crosscut saw, and you could possibly do that with just a regular crosscut saw. But I think possibly the rip saw works better because of the way the grain is going. So anyways, those are ways that you can do it if you don't have chop saw, bandsaw. But however you get this piece off of there, after you get it off, the next thing you need to do is sand this smooth. Because this side, when you glue this together, this side is going to end up, it's going to be your finished side that shows out here. And if you just glue it on there right now like this, all rough, it becomes hard to sand this off later because of that crook in there. If you put a sander on there, it won't lay good. So it's just a lot easier to go ahead and sand it right now. And I do this on my stationary sander. If you don't have a stationary sander, and you just have one of these guys, I used to do this all the time. I clamp this down to the bench. I'm not sure, I don't think I'm facing the right way, but I clamp this down to the bench and I sand this on here. And I want that to be, smooth, because I'm not going to sand it again. If you don't have any of those sanders, you just smooth it up to your own satisfaction any way you can. And that reminds me, if you're building your own shaving horse, it's up to you to decide what level of smoothness or anything else the thing gets. So, I'm not telling you to make it as smooth as I'm making it, but I'm just giving you an idea. And I'm showing you how smooth I make it. But you get to choose yourself. You're making your own tool, and you just make it to your own satisfaction. Okay. I'm going to set those aside. The next step is putting these things, moving this. See, now this one I've sanded this one. It's all smooth. But I got to move it over to that side right there like that. I want that to end up looking like that. So I have a little rig here to help me do it. And the problem with gluing this together is if you just put glue on here and put this on there and put a clamp on there, you just saw it happen maybe. I'm just going to put that on there and I'm going to squeeze it with my hand. Well, it didn't do it that time, but that just wants to slip off. So you've got to have some method to keep it from slipping apart while you're clamping for the glue. And I think one of the easiest ways is, if you don't have this rig that I have, which I don't expect you to make, just to make one shaving horse, you could maybe screw a block of wood onto your bench, or clamp a block of wood on your bench to butt this up against, but you still, even if you got that butted up against there, if you go to clamp that, that's going to slip apart. And believe me, I know it's happened a lot, or it will happen. But anyways, on this rig I've got, I used to have a screw going up that would just stick out of here just a little bit. So when I put this piece down, I had to force it on, you know, the screw was sticking up like maybe 1/8 of an inch. I would put that on there and push it down on that screw, and that screw would keep this piece from slipping out. Now that way, I got tired of that way for some reason, and I can't remember now why I got tired of that method. But my new method is, I've got this here brad nailer, battery powered, and I put this piece on here, and you notice I've got a stop over here and a stop here that I've got that butted up against and flat on the bottom there. And I've even got a thing back here, a little piece of wood to hold that in place. It's holding itself by itself. But right in the middle of this area, you know, where this would be, right in the middle, I shoot a nail in there. Boom, like that. So that's holding that piece from moving this away. And now this piece is being held from moving that way by these two pieces here. And I set that in there and see if it's fitting good on that other piece, on the edges and stuff. And if I don't like exactly how it's fitting, sometimes I take a little bit off of this corner by just rubbing it on sandpaper. You know, you can just take a little bit of that off and make it fit a little better. And sometimes I have to put shims on this piece to make it fit the way I want. But anyways, I'm going to use some glue here. A little bit of glue like that. I'm going to cover this thing completely with glue. I put a little bit too much on there, I think, but it'll squeeze out and I'll have to wipe it. But then I put that on there like so. Put 2 clamps like that. And then I take this block of wood that I had back here for my prop, and I put it right here. And I'm going around. I put too much glue on it, but the glue is squeezing out. And I'm wiping the excess glue. It's easier to get it off of there when it's still wet. So there I've got that piece in glued together and it didn't slip apart. Now if I was going to continue on, I would go ahead and get my other leg and put it on this side. But this is running long enough. And the main thing that I really needed to show you, or wanted to show you, I wanted to show it to you, is how I lay that out, how I cut those legs, and then how I cut this piece off of there. And this part, the gluing part here, might be a little bit tricky for you. But if you use a brad, you could maybe screw them together to hold them from slipping. Or if you use a brad, what I suggest you do is you use a brad that's long enough to shoot all the way through, shoot it all the way through into a dummy piece of wood or something. And then after you're done gluing and everything, you can get a hold of that brad and pull it out. That brad I put in there, when I take this apart, it's going to be sticking out the underside of this. And I'm going to pull that out. And 90% of the time that brad pulls out. Occasionally it breaks off, but it's okay if it does break off. So anyways, I hope that was informative to you. When there's going to be another time when I get back to you, and I'm going to have these all glued together, and I'm going to show you how I smooth them up and run the router on them and stuff like that. So this is a continuing thing. It's multiple episodes, and I hope the episodes are short enough. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'll try to answer them. But this is August of 2020, and if you're watching these 2 or 3, 4 years from now, I may not be able to answer the comments because I might not be looking at the comments anymore. I'm just starting out at this. I haven't got any comments yet, I don't think. But anyways, I appreciate you watching, and I hope this is helping you, and I hope you're getting something out of it. I'm getting something out of it just by doing it. And I'm really happy that I can have a camera now and I can share this stuff with everybody. And this is my business. I sell shaving horses, but someday I'm not going to be here, and somebody else can make them and sell them. Anyways, I hope you're having a good day. I'm having a good day, and I hope to see you again on the next video. I'm not sure yet what it's going to be about, but it's going to be about making shaving horse. So I'll see you then. Bye.